For those of you who have completed them, I wanted to go over the answers to the expressionism quizzes. A lot of these are answers just from the text or from the film, just to see that you grasp the content. But there are some that are sort of require you to think more carefully, and those I want to spend more time on than the others. Alright, Arnold Schoenberg achieved atonality by using the 12-tone method. Pierrot Lunaire, does this music seem to be depicting an insane clown? Most of you said yes. A few of you had differences of opinion. Do you find this music pleasant to listen to? Most of you said no. And it's not necessarily supposed to be pleasant to listen to. It's supposed to be depicting, insanity and this weird character. And so, in this case, the music matches what's happening in the literature. Can you think of a recent film involving a creepy clown with appropriately creepy music? Almost all of you said It by Stephen King. I think a couple of you came up with something different or just couldn't think of anything. But, yeah, I mean, creepy music came from somewhere, and this is where it came from. It came from Expressionism. Alright, how did the audience react to the first performance of The Rite of Spring? Some of them liked it, some of them didn't. But there was this riot, or near riot situation that happened. What was the most innovative and influential element of The Rite of Spring? The rhythm was the main thing there. Keep in mind that while we are used to the violence of the horror genre today, this is a very new thing to audiences in 1925. However, it does fit the time period of the first half of the 20th century. How? A lot of people said the Great Depression. That hadn't happened yet, but in Europe there was a tremendous amount of unrest. I mean, think of this period of peace between the two world wars. It actually wasn't peaceful at all in Europe. There's a lot of violence, power grabs going on during that time, and a lot of people being oppressed, and so it really did fit the time. Alright, Wozzeck quiz number 1. What is the captain's general advice to Wozzeck? And that is to slow down. The first word he says is langsam, slow. How does the captain make fun of Wozzeck? He talks about him being immoral. Wozzeck has a woman, Marie, but they're not married. They have a child out of wedlock, even though they're a couple. And what excuses Wozzeck gives as impediment to being moral? Well, he's poor. And so he can't be a moral person, which that can maybe be a cop-out, or maybe it could be legitimate, I don't know. Wozzeck is working in the field with a fellow soldier. Why is Wozzeck afraid? He's having some psychosis, and he thinks that there's evil forces underground. And then toward the end of the scene, Wozzeck thinks he sees a fire in the heavens. Well, he does see a fire. It's the sun. He just interprets it as something sinister. How's the marching music at the beginning of the scene changed from how we would normally expect marching music to sound? It sounds distorted. It doesn't sound sort of joyous. It sounds kind of creepy. What's the doctor's medical opinion of Wozzeck? He thinks that he has a mental aberration. And what is the doctor's overall motivation? He's in it for the fame and the glory. So I mean, this opera is full of selfish characters. I don't know if there's really a good character in it, at least not among the major characters. Alright, with whom is the drum major most infatuated? Most of you said Marie, and that works, that's fine. Some of you, interestingly, said the devil that's in Marie. I mean, if you look at what's happening in the action there, Marie pretends to try to evade the captain or push the captain away. Really she's trying to lure him in. And another answer is that the drum major is really most infatuated with himself. Alright, when the captain teases Wozzeck by saying, "Did you not find a beard hair on your plate?" he's referring to the drum major, obviously. What is all that Wozzeck has left in the world? It's Marie, is all that he has left. A scene in a tavern. What do some people do in the tavern to escape sadness? Drink and dance. Not that different than today's. Alright, Wozzeck prays to avoid temptation. What temptation is he trying to avoid? We actually don't know. I don't think it actually says, but you can imagine, a lot of people came up with the temptation to kill the drum major or to kill Marie or to kill himself or something like that. So yeah, we don't really know. We know that something's brewing in Wozzeck's mind, but we don't know what it is at this point. All right, Marie is reading from the Bible, and she sings a lullaby to her child about a child who had no father or mother. Again, we don't understand it at the time, but at the end of the opera, we understand she's really singing about the child to himself. At what point do we hear the B note most emphatically? During the stabbing, when Wozzeck says to Marie that she is pious and good and faithful, he's being sarcastic. What does Wozzeck mean when he says you will not shiver in the morning dew? It means she will be dead. And at the moment of the murder, there's a steadily pounding timpani that gets louder and then fades away. Some of you came up with the answer that I was thinking of, which is probably Marie's heartbeat. After the murder, Wozzeck goes to the tavern, and out-of-tune piano is playing. And how does this sound similar to scenes in some older movies? Well, only a few people got what I was thinking of, which is, it sounds like the old Western movies when there's an out-of-tune piano playing ragtime or something like that, while people are at the bar drinking. But the music, the score, actually indicates to have an old piano tune, so it sounds like it's out of tune. Alright, Wozzeck returns to the murder scene and tries to hide the knife. What is the red cord around Marie's neck? That's her blood that's dripped. The moon rises red. Why is Wozzeck unhappy with the moon? Because he feels like the moon is trying to tell the whole world of what he's done wrong. And this is the second time that he's seen something in the sky that he's unhappy with. Remember, in the first act, he saw the sun in the sky and thought it was a fire in the heavens. That has come back, but now it's the moon, and he's unhappy about that as well. Wozzeck wades into the water to wash the blood off his hands. Then he sees the reflection of the moon in the water, and this causes him to think that he's washing himself in blood. As Wozzeck sinks into the pond, we hear notes rising up. What is that trying to depict? A couple of ideas. One is that it's the air bubbles rising up as he's sinking down, or it could represent the water as he sinks down. The water sort of rises around him. So seeing it from his point of view. All right, the captain is frightened and tells the doctor to come quickly. What is different about the captain compared to the first scene in the opera? Well, remember at the first scene in the opera, he was telling Wozzeck langsam, slowly. And so now he's changed his tune. He wants the captain to come quickly. And so we see these, it's almost like a palindrome structure where there's a relationship between things that happened earlier in the opera and things that are happening late in the opera. Eighth notes continue to the end of the opera and then abruptly stop. What does that suggest? Most of you came up with this pretty well. It suggests perpetuality, that this is going to keep going, this story keeps going. What kind of adult will the child grow up to be? And not a very well-adjusted one, and some people said like his father, Wozzeck. And again, so that perpetuates. All right, what are your thoughts about Wozzeck or other modern works you have heard? Comments on this varied widely, which I expected. More people sort of enjoyed it, or at least understood the point than I expected. It didn't sound very pleasant, but I can see how why the music sounds this way, and I can see what they're trying to get across. I'm trying to think of some other comments. One person said that she didn't feel that that it was trying to justify the murder because of Wozzeck being poor. Definitely that does not justify Wozzeck killing Marie. And I don't think it was meant to intend that. I think what it's trying to say is that sometimes people are in difficult situations, and sometimes they need help. And Wozzeck was definitely not getting help. In fact, he was sort of being dumped on by all those around him. The captain and the doctor and the drum major, and then Marie wasn't treating him very good either. And so somebody who's already prone to mental illness, this sort of thing is going to happen. And so Berg saw this opera as a social statement more than anything else. And final question, can you think of a movie that's similar from 2019 that depicts a similar character with mental instability? And most of you came up with the answer that I was thinking of, which was Joker. Interesting thing about Joker is that I heard an interview with the writer, the creator of the movie, and he didn't actually set out to write a superhero type of movie. He said he really wanted to write a socially conscious movie about people who are in need of help, who try to do well, but they do not have the support that they need in order to succeed, and so they fall through the cracks, or sometimes worse. And so, the reason this was done as Joker is that how do I get this movie out to as many people as possible and get this message out? And he said, well, the best way is to put it into a popular setting, which is, the superhero genre is really big right now. And so how do we fit this into, a basically serious film into a popular culture in a way that a lot more people will see it than otherwise? I did want to mention that the last question, I was thinking of the answer of the movie Joker, but some people did come up with some other interesting ideas. The movie Us, somebody came up with, and somebody brought up a series called You. That sounded interesting. And then another one is a Vietnamese historical character, Chi Phao. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I looked on YouTube and found a movie made in 1982 about his experiences. It's called Vu Dai Village in the Past, and I'll provide a link in this email. The person that put this on YouTube refers to it as Vietnam's Les Miserables, which if you're familiar with Les Miserables, it's the plight of the poor people ahead of the French Revolution, which I find a little bit ironic because at the time of the happenings in this movie, it was actually the French imperial forces that were, I think, in charge of Vietnam at that time, and were kind of causing a lot of the problems. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I think that's the case. And I think this will be interesting to see the perspective from Vietnam and see how it contrasts with how we understand the Vietnamese conflict from the media here in the United States.